Believe it or not, the fight for election integrity over the 2020 presidential election is still actually raging, despite the fact that basically none of these suits have the ability to overturn the presidential election. The focus has more turned towards what went wrong during this election that can be fixed and addressed by state legislatures in future elections. Lots of people still have unanswered questions about various ballot activities in places like Maricopa County, where a huge audit has been underway. It has been commented on and criticized by several people on all sides of every aisle you can imagine. I haven't really been covering it, but my friend Q over at Out of the Darkness and my friend Doug Tenaple have both been covering it on their channels, and I would suggest you check them out if you want information about what's going on there. That being said, there is a new audit. There's a new audit going on in Fulton County, Georgia, which is another place where Republicans have a lot of questions about activity that occurred, specifically around activity that occurred at one of the major voting centers in Atlanta with regards to people clearing out during the counting time and questions about ballots being counted maybe without supervision. Now, these are allegations, and the aim of the audit is to try to get to the bottom of those allegations. I am not making a statement on them in any way. However, the people fighting for that audit just got a sort of victory in court, and I'm here to tell you about that because I'm Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. I'm a lawyer, and I'm also a legal and political commentator on YouTube and on Odyssey. Wherever you're watching, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and have your notifications turned on, or whatever million steps you need to do to make sure you don't miss any videos and you always have up-to-date information. All right, let's take a look. This is from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. The article will be linked down below because we're not going to go through all of it. It's a long one, and it says a bunch of stuff that isn't really super important to the video, but is important to the subject. Anyway, Georgia is headed for another review of its presidential election results after a judge agreed to unseal more than 145,000 Fulton County absentee ballots on Friday. The details and timing of the review must still be determined, but the plaintiffs in a lawsuit against the county want to scan and examine the ballots to determine whether they are legitimate. Okay, so here's the idea. The absentee ballots make up more than enough votes in Georgia to disrupt the presidential election. Now, it is so far from the realm of possibility that anything would happen, even if, hypothetically, they found all sorts of evidence of bad things. The inauguration has already occurred, and there's not really an effective mechanism to impact the presidential election in any way. So I don't want anybody to think that this audit or the Maricopa County audit is going to undo the results of the election. The election is, as far as the Constitution is concerned, finished, done, and established. The only thing you could do now would be to have an impeachment or some sort of proceeding pursuant to that if they were able to do it. And with the politics of the House and Senate right now, that seems to be a pretty unlikely outcome. That being said, the goal of the audit is to establish whether or not there was some sort of malfeasance going on in the conduct of the 2020 election. Lots of people still believe that there was some sort of malfeasance that took place, and they can cite all sorts of evidence and examples of unanswered questions. And perhaps most bafflingly, and this has really been fueling the fire of all of this, is that the people on the other side of that equation who say that nothing untoward happened have been resistant to any sort of auditing and resistant to any sort of oversight of these activities, not only after the election, but from before the election on. The fight over just observing the election was a notable fight in 2020, one that went to the Supreme Court in several different states, and unfortunately, the Supreme Court just failed to answer those questions or address them in a meaningful way, leaving us where we are now. And that's not even considering the post-election lawsuits that went to the Supreme Court and were ignored. And again, we could have used some insight from the highest court in the land to look at what was going on and make some judicial determinations. And I think that would have staved off a lot of these sort of complaints and fights that have been going on since then. However, since they didn't, it's being handled at local levels by local people, and maybe that is for the best in the long run, as it gets people who are on the ground in the best places to review evidence and allows the state legislatures then to make decisions based on what's going on. But so they are suing to review these absentee ballots. Like I said, the margin would have been high enough to impact the presidential election. Again, now it's not going to happen in that way, but finding out what's going on with these absentee ballots is critical. If they're all legitimate ballots, then that should go ahead and quell the concerns of many people. What they want to do is have high-resolution imaging of these ballots, and then they can review the images of those ballots to try and see if there is some sort of printing scheme going on or something like that. That is one of the allegations that's out there. Okay, so that's kind of the goal of this. That's covered in this article. At a hearing Friday, Henry County Superior Court Judge Brian Amaro made clear the ballots must remain in the custody of the Fulton election officials, which could prevent the kind of allegations of mishandling ballots and improper procedures that have dogged an audit of ballots in Arizona in recent weeks. The latest Georgia review cannot change the election results, which were certified months ago, have already been confirmed by multiple recounts, but the plaintiffs say an examination of the ballots will get to the bottom of what they see as suspicious activity by election officials at State Farm Arena last November. Former Senator Kelly Loeffler welcomed the review in a statement issued Friday. Voter confidence in our election system is the bedrock of our republic, said Loeffler, now chair of voter registration group Greater Georgia Action. Unfortunately, inconsistencies in Fulton County's November 2020 absentee ballots cast serious doubts on voters' faith in our elections. And that is a quote from Kelly Loeffler. I'm not making a statement either way. I am merely reporting on what people's perceptions of the 2020 election are. You know, I will wait till all of the court cases are done. There have been over 30 court cases filed in Georgia alone about what's going on, and that is sufficient to tell me that people still have serious questions about what has happened in Fulton County specifically. But really, I think that played out in several different states. There are unanswered questions, and the people with the duty to answer those questions were the courts. They refused to do so, and that has been a big part of people's problems with all of this. However, that being said, where we are now is left with another audit. These the review of the ballots here will be paid for by the plaintiff, the organization that is actually filing this lawsuit. They will not be borne by the people of Georgia. So that eliminates one of the concerns as well. This is being funded by a private group, private entity, and the review will be paid for by them. The judge has ordered the state to image these ballots and allow review of the imaging. One thing I can see as a problem, though, is if they do not have supervision of the imaging of the ballots, there will be cries of potentially some foul play there. So it'll be interesting to see how they manage to get everybody on board with reviewing the imagery process and then the review of the images themselves. We'll have to wait and see, but I wanted to let people know what was going on, why it was going on, and we'll be watching to see if anything interesting comes of it. If you let me know what you think down in the comments below, and what do you think about the election in Georgia, the election in general? What do you think about all these audits? Is it time for them to ramp up? Is it time for us to move on? I'd love to hear your opinion. Until next time, peace. Peace.